To figure out what conference is playing the best in the bowls, we have to know which conference is playing the toughest bowl schedule. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love each and every day, not just during football season, but 24/7, 365. All right. We are going to see over the next several days, as the bowl season wraps up, we are going to see all sorts of records fly all over our TV and laptop and iPhone screens that are going to show us the bowl standings based on conference record. Well, how difficult were the schedules, though? There are bowl trophies that are given to certain conferences, let's say from the Mountain West or Conference USA or the American Conference, in which they obviously didn't play as tough a schedule. So how could that possibly be awarded based on playing inferior opponents? All right, I'm looking at the Power 5 right now, and I'm checking out the opponents. And at first glance, it appears as though the SEC and the Big Ten, as is typically the case, play the toughest bowl schedule. That's what is typically the case, because if we go back to the BCS era, going into the BCS bowl games that has transitioned into the college football playoff and then the New Year's Six, the SEC and the Big Ten have been selected for more BCS bowl games and New Year's Six bowl games than the other conferences. Thus, they're playing a higher tier competition right off the bat. Plus, they play two games against each other in the Citrus and Outback Bowls, traditionally, year after year after year after year. So you can go through the years and see that the Big Ten and the SEC typically play the toughest bowl schedules. Let's give this a look. Well, the Big Ten has obviously played Clemson, number 3 team in the country coming into bowl season. Oregon at number 6, Auburn at number 12, Alabama number 13, Memphis 17, and USC number 22. So 6 ranked teams for the Big Ten to play, and then also Tennessee and Cal. All right, the SEC at first glance, very difficult bowl schedule as well. Oklahoma at number 4, didn't turn out to be tough. Baylor at number 7, Michigan at 14, Minnesota 18, Virginia 24, and Oklahoma State at 25. So the SEC, like the Big Ten, is playing 6 ranked opponents, but 2 of those ranked opponents are very low in the pecking order at Virginia 24 and Oklahoma State 25. So take that into consideration as well, that the average ranking for SEC bowl opponents is 15, and for the Big Ten, it's 12. All right, the Big 12. Pretty tough bowl schedule. Number 1, LSU, of course. Number 5, Georgia. Number 11, Utah. Number 15, Notre Dame. Number 23, Navy. And then also Texas A&M. They've only played 2 of those games thus far. And, of course, it worked out very badly for their champion, Oklahoma, against number 1, LSU. And Iowa State also lost to Notre Dame, as well as the third game. Yes, Oklahoma State losing to Texas A&M. So the Big 12 off to a bad start, but playing 5 ranked opponents out of 6 games. Okay, now for the ACC. This at first glance, and I think the metrics will prove it out, is by far the easiest of the schedules. Ohio State, number 2 team in the country, sure. Number 9, Florida. Cincinnati, difficult to rank and evaluate the group of 5 teams against the Power 5, of course, but Cincinnati, a successful team at number 21 in the nation. Everybody else that the ACC is playing is unranked, and rightfully so. They're mediocre teams. And the ACC by far is playing the most group of 5 teams. There is Mississippi State, Michigan State, Louisiana Tech, Eastern Michigan, Temple, Kentucky, and Arizona State. Those are the ACC opponents. And then finally the Pac-12. The Pac-12 typically plays a lot of Mountain West Conference opponents in its group of 5 schedule in bowl play. So for the Pac-12, they are to play Wisconsin, the number 8 team in the country. Iowa, number 16, they lost that game. Boise State, number 19, won that game. And then they still have to play Florida State. They've got Air Force, Illinois, and Texas as well. All right, so this is how it adds up when you look at the standings and the records of these teams. Who has played the toughest bowl schedule? All right, based on winning percentage overall, it's the Big 12. at 82.7%, followed by the Big Ten. You see the SEC at 752, the Pac-12 at 698, and the ACC at 672. That's overall winning percentage of those conferences' bowl opponents, top to bottom. The conference winning percentage is more important to go by here because that's a closed experiment. We've explained that in the past, and we've talked about that in ranking the conferences, that when you look at conference record, it's much more meaningful than the overall record because the out-of-conference games, the level and levels of competition are all over the place. And so some teams play very difficult non-conference schedules, others do not. But within the conference, then you get the real feel because it's the same conference. All right, the Big 12 played the toughest opponents in conference. So let's go back to the Big 12 bowl opponents. We've got LSU, of course, they went undefeated in the SEC. Georgia at 7-1, Utah at 7-1, or actually 8-1 in the Pac-12. Notre Dame without a conference schedule. Navy at 7-1, and Texas A&M at 4-4 was the only marginal team that the Big 12 has played based on their conference record. So the Big 12 has played an outstanding schedule based on conference record, 82.5% winning percentage. The Big Ten's number 2. And again, the Big Ten, this is a pretty impressive run of teams. Clemson, Oregon, Auburn, Alabama, Memphis, USC, Tennessee, and Cal. So the Big Ten winning percentage is 746, obviously weighed down by Cal at 4-5. And then you've got the SEC at 705, the Pac-12 at 683, and the ACC at 602. Because the ACC, even if you just look at even the group of 5 teams that the ACC is playing aren't that good. Eastern Michigan went 3-5 in the MAC, and Pitt beat them by 4 points on the last possession. Temple only went 5-3 in the American Conference, and North Carolina throttled them. And then in Power 5 conference play, Mississippi State only 3-5, Michigan State 4-5, Arizona State 4-5, Kentucky 3-5. So a lot of down teams that the ACC is playing equals just about a 60% winning percentage for the ACC. All right. So the Big 12 is playing against the Power 5 teams that have won 82.5% of its games and also the best winning percentage in conference in Power 5 only. So if you look at that, the Big 12 has only played Notre Dame and Navy that did not play in a Power 5 league. The Big 10 is playing the second toughest Power 5 winning percentage at 756. Number 2 also in conference at 729 for the SEC at 752 and 705. The ACC again comes in just ahead of the Pac-12 against the Power 5, although the ACC plays the weakest conference winning percentage of anyone by far at 568. The Pac-12 is second worst. And then the group of 5, this has to be interpreted to a certain extent because there are very few games, especially none for the SEC. So the SEC played all Power 5 opponents. The Big Ten up top at 923 and 875, that is its one group of 5 opponent, which was supposed to be the best group of 5 team this year, the highest ranked, Memphis. So that Big Ten record that you see right there of its group of 5 opponents is Memphis at 12-1 coming into bowl play and 7-1 in conference play. The Pac-12 played a lot of Mountain West teams, or played their 2 opponents actually for the Pac-12 was, of course, Boise State and Air Force, 2 excellent group of 5 teams that finished 22-3 and 15-1 in conference play. The Big 12 played a couple group of 5s as well. And for the Big 12, you've got those games against Navy. That's Navy. That's Navy going 10-2 and 7-1. That is the Big 12 group of 5 opponent right there. There's only one, Navy at 10-2, 7-1. Kansas State's playing them coming up. And then again, the SEC didn't play any group of 5, and the ACC actually played. You would think that the group of 5 numbers should be high because you're playing the best of the group of 5. But the ACC played some marginal group of 5 teams. We see them right here. Again, Eastern Michigan, 6-6, 3-5 in the MAC. Temple, 8-4, 5-3 in the conference, American Conference. And Louisiana Tech, 9-3, 6-2. So there you have it. If it means anything, this is what I think it means, that the Big Ten and the SEC are playing the best opponents, although the Big 12 opponents are extremely difficult as well. LSU, Georgia, Utah, Notre Dame, Navy, and Texas A&M. I'm going to line up the opponents down in the description section and have you rank along with me the difficulty of opponents for the Power Fives. I would say Big Ten, Big 12, SEC, Pac-12, ACC. My thoughts right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. So keep that in mind when you're looking at Conference Bowl records, because they're going to be flying all over the place in the next few days as bowl season concludes. We're going to see what the bowl records are and how people will be comparing conferences based on the bowl records. But keep in mind, who are these conferences playing? We do it the smart way with your help right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like, comment, share the videos, and subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.